work. Protecting it isn't. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, the Ad Council, and this station.
Information is power, and now available on your smartphone or tablet. Download the free WOL app now. WOL Washington, D.C. W240DJ Washington. 95.9 WMMJ HD3 Bethesda. WKYS HD3 Washington. WPRS HD3 Waldorf and worldwide at WOLDCnews.com.
The following program is paid for by Barbara Arnwine.
The topics, views, and opinions expressed on the air and via All Igniting Change with Barbara Arnwine, platforms by host Barbara Arnwine Esquire, guests, and supporters are their own and are independent of any organization, entity. Nothing said on the show or any of its platforms constitutes a client-attorney relationship or serves as legal advice, counsel. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to Igniting Change, its platforms, or the show's host. It's time now for Igniting Change, a weekly provocative and empowering program where you, the listener, can ignite change. Now here's your host, Barbara Arnwine.
Get up, stand up.
Good afternoon to all our great East Coast listeners. And I want to say good morning to everyone throughout the country. Thank you, everybody, for listening in today. We got a really great show for you. Yes, you hear the excitement in my voice, not only because of the great show, but because we are in Brooklyn, New York. Broadcasting, looking out here over the East River, looking at Wall Street and the Statue of Liberty. Yes, it is absolutely wonderful to be here and to be talking and meeting with so many wonderful voting rights advocates from around the country. And we are determined to make sure that people are able to vote. And talking about voting, let me bring up our amazing co-leader of the Transformative Justice Coalition, one of the nation's most foremost amazing lawyers, one of the most innovative people I've ever met. I am so happy to welcome Daryl D. Jones, Esquire. Hey, Daryl.
Hey, Barbara, it must be Tuesday, it must be noon Eastern Standard Time, because we're striking the match and igniting change across this country. Let me tell you, Barbara, it's so exciting to not simply be in Brooklyn, New York, and around the bridge here and the park here and the people here, but just such an exciting time overall. But I tell you, Barbara, our show today, my goodness, we're going to talk about Texas because there's some stuff going on in Texas.
Ridiculous.
That we need to talk about. And then we have that Justice Alito stuff going on.
Woo, what a mess.
Court. I mean, all of the supreme ethic issues. But I tell you, Barbara, if people today are in the state of Georgia, the state of Georgia today, I think you may know a lady by the name of Fannie Willis, who's running for re-election there in the state of Georgia. The state of Georgia today is your election day. Not only is Fannie Willis on the ballot, but Judge Scott McFay is also on the ballot, and he has opposition, and a person that we know, Barbara, Robert Patillo, is running for that seat against Scott McAfee. So all of that is in place. But so if you're in Georgia, there's statewide primaries today, South Carolina, Kentucky, Puerto Rico, Washington, D.C., Iowa, Montana, New Jersey, New Mexico, Maine, and Nevada. Any of those states, you're having statewide primaries today, Barbara. So we want to be certain that people get out there and get their vote on.
That's right, because we can't tell you how to vote because we are, nonpartisan, but we can tell you better vote. Get that vote on because we don't like what's happening around this country. We don't like the lack of racial justice, the lack of social justice. We want an America that's worthy of its people, that is responsive to the needs of all its people. So get out there and vote for those folks that are going to make the difference, who are going to be there and represent your interests. Get your vote on today. Now, before I also get into our show, we want everyone to know that there are some important announcements. We have a show update from last week. Everybody remember that we had that amazing show talking about Louisiana and about how these, quote, non-black folks had brought this challenge to the creation of a second majority African-American district in Louisiana. After, people had sued and corrected the racist maps that had been in effect for years, denying black voters their opportunity to vote. And then these whites, quote, non-blacks, brought their case and said, that's not racially unconstitutional, and this is horrible. And they won, right? But we told you last week, because we had Sarah Rouhani on from LDF, Legal Defense Fund. We had on Dr. Press Robinson, and they told you that they had filed a motion for an emergency stay with the United States Supreme Court, and that they were waiting. And we talked about how horrible this was, how wrongful it was, that the court had the lower court had ruled wrongly, saying that this map could not be in place. Well, we got a good news, right, Daryl? We got good news this morning, because the very next day after our show, that evening, the Supreme Court released a ruling saying that they agreed with the Legal Defense Fund, they agreed with Dr. Press Robinson, and that they were granting the emergency stay, and that the new map that creates now two majority African-American voting opportunity districts will be in effect for 2024. So congratulations, Dr. Press Robinson. Congratulations, Legal Defense Fund and all the other litigators in that case. And congratulations to the people of Louisiana and of this nation, because when they send that congressman, the new congressperson, to the Congress, it will make all our lives better throughout the nation. Right, Daryl?
Absolutely, Barbara. And Dr. Press Robinson, just thank you so much, because Barbara, he's now 85 years old,
yes,
and he is still on the battlefield, not just on the battlefield, but on the front line, pushing for voting rights for folks across this country. My goodness, Barbara, you can't say much more about Dr. Press Robinson than just say thank you and just be appreciative for the effort that he takes.
Yes, and we don't want to hear nobody telling us that they tired. I mean, I be talking to 30-year-old folks, 40-year-old folks, 50-year-old folks about they tired of fighting, honey. You're going to be fighting your whole life, because every day we get up and we fight to live, we fight to breathe, we fight to do the things that are required to make our lives good. You're going to be fighting for justice even harder. So thank you so much, everyone, for listening to our show. We got some great guests, because as Daryl said, we're talking about, you guys aren't going to believe it, yes, we're talking again about the Supreme Court misconduct and corruption. So the title of our show today is Continuing Supreme Court Misconduct and Texas Governor Abbott's Pardon Debacle. Today's show, we have some amazing guests. Representative Ron Reynolds. Representative Reynolds from Texas, Chair of the Black Caucus. Are you with us, sir? Okay. And Chauncey Brown. Okay, well, let me get on Judge Alexander Williams. Thank you, Judge, for joining us again. Thank you for always giving us such a professional and profound insight on these battles. How are you, Judge Alexander Williams?
Doing well, Attorney Arnwine. I'm just so delighted to be back here on these important issues affecting so much of us across the country. So thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. And, just think about it. We just opened this show talking about the Supreme Court and its ruling in the Kalis versus Landry case. And, the court is of utmost importance. But what do we do when it has all this misconduct? Oh, we got to talk about this. But we also have another guest. You want to introduce him, Daryl?
Sure, Barbara. One of our TJC fellows from the class of 2024 is with us as well today. My goodness, folks, you all are in store. This brother, let me tell you, in the training class, he was just off the hook. He's been involved in the community. He's a civil rights activist. He's the special assistant to Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson Sr. Over at Rainbow Push Coalition. He's also the director of their 1,000 churches connected throughout the United States.
All right now.
Welcome to Igniting Change, Reverend Chauncey Brown. Reverend Brown, welcome.
Reverend Brown? Reverend Brown, come off of that mute.
Thank you so much.
There you go. Now you're with us.
Welcome to the show, Attorney Arnwine and Attorney Jones, and our guest today. I'm so glad. We've got so much to talk about, so I'm excited to be here.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, and you were part of that amazing new class of young voters, ages 18 to 35 that met in April in the mighty city of Phoenix, Arizona. And we had people from all over the country, folks, over 47 young Gen Z and millennials who joined us for a training on how to be the best voting rights advocates possible at this time in this country. So thank you for joining us, Reverend Chauncey, and thank you for all of your leadership. And we know it's important to the people of Chicago. We appreciate you. So let's get into this subject. Let's talk about this Supreme Court. My goodness. Daryl, we turn around and we see this madness that's going on. We see all of a sudden this picture in the New York Times last Friday of a upside down flag flying at the home that was flown at the home of Justice Alito for 6 days, folks. 6 days after a week and a half after the January 6th insurrection, and prior to 3 days prior to the inauguration of President Joe Biden. This flag's flying while the court is considering, former President Trump's role in this insurrection, while it's considering what kind of penalties are appropriate for the insurrectionists who are appealing any kind of penalties at all for all the destruction they did. And all of this is going on, and you got a Supreme Court justice flying the American flag upside down, which was a symbol, Daryl, right, of the insurrectionists. And they're
absolutely, Barbara.
Yes. I mean, and here's a Supreme Court justice doing this. Judge Alexander Williams, what did you feel when you read and heard about this latest outrage?
Well, again, and let me thank both of Attorney Jones, Attorney Arnwine, and I'm just delighted to be here with Reverend Chauncey Brown. I have followed his wonderful leadership at Second Baptist
wonderful.
Church. So I'm just glad to be here with such a star. But let me say, the problem in this country is that there's a loss of confidence in the integrity of the Supreme Court. And, of course, I've been a judge, a federal judge, and some of the things that I'm hearing, this thing with Alito, is just stunning. It's sad that, again, people think that justices are no more than politicians in robes who rule based on their personal ideology, and they're swayed by friends and benefactors. That's the prevailing view that's going on right now. That's just sad for democracy, sad for the people.